over to Christine Tam.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you again to everyone for joining this evening's webinar. My name is Christine Tam. I'm a Senior Resource Planner with the City of Palo Alto Utilities, and the topic for today's webinar is All Electric Homes 101. We'll be talking about how to go green with an electric home. And I'm co-hosting this webinar with my colleague, Scott Melberg, who is a Utilities Program Manager. Oops, sorry. So here's the outline for for this evening's webinar. First, I will provide some background on greenhouse gas emission sources in your home, and then I'll talk about why electric is cleaner, safer, and healthier energy source for your house. Then I'll go over different types of efficient electric alternatives to gas appliances. And then I'll turn it over to Scott, who will talk about a roadmap to plan for your home electrification. We'll also have time at the end to answer questions that you might have. Just a few webinar logistics. All the attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions, feel free to send them in the Q&A box. This webinar is being recorded. The recording and the slides will be available after the webinar at this website, and we'll also include that website in the chat box. We would like to invite you to take a short survey after the webinar, and we'll be providing the survey web link at the end of the presentation. In 2016, Palo Alto City Council adopted a very ambitious goal to reduce the community's greenhouse gases by 80% from the 1990 level by 2030. And this is what we call the 80 by 30 goal. While this is an aggressive goal, it is an important step to meeting the IPCC recommendation of achieving net zero emissions by 2050 in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This chart here shows the emission sources within Palo Alto as of 2018. Road travel accounts for 64% of the community emissions, while natural gas use in buildings combined with natural gas leakage accounts for 32% of the community emissions. Replacing natural gas use in buildings with electricity, or building electrification as we call it, is the key strategy for Palo Alto to meet our 80 by 30 goal. For an average single-family home in Palo Alto, natural gas use make up 70% of the home's total energy use. The bar chart on the right shows the breakdown of natural gas use in single-family homes. Space and water heating combined use 85% of the natural gas in an average single-family home. The greenhouse gas emissions from gas heating and gas cooking in your home each year is roughly equivalent to the greenhouse gas emissions from driving a gasoline car, which is about 3 to 4 metric tons. So you might ask, isn't natural gas a clean energy source? Well, natural gas is a fossil fuel, and it's usually found in layers of rock formations or in tiny pores within shale formations. Shale gas is extracted by a process called fracking, which is a controversial topic because of its damaging environmental impacts. Natural gas is a mixture of hydrocarbons, primarily methane. It also contains natural gas liquids, such as ethane, propane, and butane, and traces of nitrogen and hydrogen sulfides. Natural gas has no color and no smell. However, a sulfur-based odorant is added to give it a rottenish smell, which allows people to easily detect gas leaks. Burning natural gas produces carbon dioxide, which is a key source of greenhouse gas. Other combustion byproducts include carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and sulfur oxides. These pollutants are harmful to your health if the vents for the gas furnace, the gas water heater, and fireplace are not properly installed or maintained. Cooking with a gas stove without proper ventilation can result in unhealthy levels of nitrogen dioxide inside the house, and this can increase the risk of respiratory issues such as asthma. There's another problem with natural gas. The natural gas system, from production to transportation pipeline, down to the gas appliances in your home, is leaky. Around 2 to 3% of the methane is leaked from the production and transportation of natural gas into the atmosphere, and then another 0.5% of methane is leaked inside the home. While these percentages may not sound like a lot, methane is a very potent greenhouse gas and has a global warming potential that is 86 times higher than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. The graph on the left here shows that over the past 100 years, methane concentration has been increasing at a higher rate than carbon dioxide. The pie chart on the right shows the contribution of each human-caused greenhouse gas, and methane makes up 16% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So let's turn now to look at where Palo Alto's electricity comes from. Palo Alto electricity has been 100% carbon neutral since 2013. And this means that electricity supplied by the city of Palo Alto comes from clean, carbon-free sources, including hydroelectric energy, solar energy, wind, and biomass energy. Palo Alto does not have any long-term power contracts for gas-fired electric generation. At the state level, California has already phased out coal-fired electric generation. By 2045, 100% of the California electric grid will be carbon-free. With all electric appliances, you get the peace of mind that there will be no risk of gas leaks and no unhealthy combustion byproducts. Also, since there's no open flame from gas appliances, there's also a lower fire risk. So choosing electric is better for your safety, better for your health, and better for the planet. There are some very efficient electric alternatives to gas appliances, and I'll be focusing on two proven technologies that have been around for decades and are well suited for home applications. The first one is the electric heat pump. A heat pump is a device that uses a small amount of energy to move heat from one place to another. The refrigerator in your home is an example of a heat pump. It pulls heat from inside the fridge and dumps it into the surrounding air. Oh, yeah. A heat pump water heater works in reverse. And this diagram here shows a schematic cross-section of a heat pump water heater. Air from the room is pulled inside the heat pump at the top of the water heater. A refrigerant circulates between the heat pump and the water tank and moves the heat from the air into the water. Because the heat pump is pulling energy in the form of heat from the surrounding air, it can produce 3 to 4 units of energy output for each unit of electric energy input. And that makes heat pump equipment more efficient than other conventional heating and cooling systems. So next, we'll look at how a heat pump water heater compares with gas water heaters. All gas water heaters have a flue pipe to send the exhaust gases outside the house. However, there is a risk of backdrafting, which means the combustion gases are flowing back inside instead of out through the flue pipe. Backdrafting could happen when the air pressure inside the house is lower than the outside. The combustion gases contain carbon monoxide, which is lethal, and that is why California law requires carbon monoxide detectors in homes. Let's compare the efficiency of different types of water heaters, which is rated using the energy factor. The higher the energy factor, the more efficient the water heater is. Heat pump water heaters have energy factor that typically ranges between 3 and 4. The energy factor for gas water heaters, on the other hand, is always less than 1. Usually between 0.6 to 0.7 for tank style and 0.9 to maybe 0.95 for tankless models. Heat pump water heaters also provide smart controls that allows you to remotely control the water heater or save energy when no one's home by setting to vacation mode. If you have a rooftop solar system at your house, you can program the heat pump water heater to run during the hours when you have excess solar output from your PV system. So next, we're going to talk about another heat pump application for your home, the heat pump HVAC. A gas furnace can provide space heating only, and an air conditioning system can provide cooling only. A heat pump HVAC can operate in both space heating and cooling mode, and very efficiently. It also provides good air filtration, which can be very important given the poor air quality we've had over the past few months. Heat pump HVAC systems have two parts, an indoor unit, which is the air handler, and the outdoor unit, which is the heat pump. We'll go over two types of heat pump HVAC systems. The first type is a mini split. A mini split can have multiple indoor units and does not require ductwork. So they work well for homes with no ductwork and for room additions. The indoor unit can be installed high on a wall or on the ceiling. Mini splits have been around for decades, and they're very popular in Europe and Asia. The second style is the central heat pump system. If your house has a central gas furnace, then a ducted central heat pump system would make a good fit for your home. Leaky ducts, however, is a common problem and can lose 20 to 30% of the air that moves through the system. So we recommend that you have your ductwork serviced on a regular basis to minimize air leaks. Next, we'll turn to cooking. So for cooking, we're recommending induction stoves as an efficient alternative to gas stoves. An induction stove uses electromagnetism to create heat inside the cooking pan. These are not the old electric coil stoves from the 1950s era. The surface of the induction cooktop is usually made of a tough, heat-resistant glass ceramic material. They look like electric smooth-top burners, but the cooking surface never gets hot. When the pan is placed on the cooking zone, the magnetic field induces electrical currents inside the pan, and that heats up the pan. There's no energy lost to the surrounding air. For cookware, they need to be made of a magnetic material. Cast iron and stainless steel pans work well with induction stoves. If you want to know whether your pots and pans are compatible, you can test them by sticking a magnet to your pan. If the magnet stays on, then it is induction compatible. When cooking with induction stoves, there is no unhealthy combustion byproducts, and you don't have to worry about the kitchen rag or your copy of a recipe catching fire. The many online videos that show that induction stoves heat faster than gas stoves. And here are some photos of kitchens with induction stoves. And as you can see, not only are induction stoves safer, cleanup is super easy because spills don't get cooked on induction surfaces. Induction stoves also work well for all types of kitchen designs. If you want to try one out, portable versions of single burner induction stoves are available, and these are very reasonably priced. There are many celebrity chefs that love their induction stoves, and here are some quotes from chefs. My favorite one is the one on the bottom right by Chef Paul Lebrant, who was featured in the documentary film A Matter of Taste. I'll read out his quote. "It's cleaner, it cuts down on heat in the kitchen, and allows a more precise way to work." I will now turn over to Scott to talk about how to plan for your home electrification.
Thank you very much, Christine, and thank you for all of you who are attending this evening. To begin your journey of electrifying your home, it's best to start by being proactive by looking at which of your appliances and equipment actually use gas. Starting with your water heater is often the first step, and they typically last about 10 to 15 years, but water heaters often fail without warning. They will let you know that they fail when you come home after being away and are met with a flooded garage floor or have rusty water coming out of your faucet. Many water heaters do have the date of manufacture on their label, but if they don't, there is our websites for looking at the date from your model and the serial number. One of those websites is listed here, and we'll put that web link into the chat. You can also contact the Home Efficiency Genie, who I will talk about more later, and they can help you with looking up the age of your water heater. Furnaces typically last about 15 to 20 years, and although most people would say that they're not as critical as hot water, it is best to plan for their expected life and to consider the heat pump options that Christine was mentioning earlier. No one wants to be trying to plan a new furnace in the middle of winter. We have about a 5-month heating season here, and plus more people are considering adding air conditioning due to our hotter summers, so it makes sense to start planning your system between seasons. Plus, HVAC contractors are less busy in the fall and the spring. So the real bonus is, if you have only a gas furnace now and you convert to a heat pump, you will be getting air conditioning. With a heat pump HVAC system, the furnace and the AC are all one system. So if you're planning a kitchen remodel, take a look at the many beautiful and efficient induction cooktop systems available. Christine had some wonderful images showing how nice they look. Talk to your designer, architect, or contractor and let them know that you want an induction cooktop. So once you know the age of your appliances, you're on the path to electrifying your home. If you've not remodeled and live in an older home, you may need to consider the electrical panel. That's the box on the side of your house with the circuit breakers, or maybe even fuses if you have a really old house. And its capacity may be a factor in this journey. Most older homes have a 100 amp panel, remodeled, upgraded, and most newer homes will typically be 200 amps. Because your home's comfort and efficiency are heavily dependent on your home's building shell or envelope, that's often what we call insulation, it's important to take into consideration when planning your heating and cooling system. Most gas furnace systems are grossly oversized, and so your heat pump sizing will be designed to properly meet the home's comfort needs. Smaller equipment is less expensive to purchase and less costly to operate. A well-insulated, sealed home needs less heating, needs less cooling, and is therefore more resilient to temperature fluctuations. So your steps might be to consider these next actions. You may need to upgrade your electrical panel. You also will want to plan the circuits and the wiring to those electrical appliances. For example, if you have add a circuit to your water heater or a circuit to your stove or range if those are gas now. Heat pump water heaters do prefer to have air around them, so you may consider their location. Garages, basements, and outside-facing closets all work really well. And due to the recovery time, you may want to upsize your heat pump water heater tank. You may actually want to consider a different type of heating and cooling system altogether. Eichlers typically have a 60-plus-year-old radiant system that may not keep limping along forever. There are many great options for ducted and non-ducted heating and cooling systems with heat pump technology. So if you want to replace your gas appliances before they fail, you can start by getting some contractor quotes. So all these steps I just outlined, they might sound daunting, but don't get overwhelmed or intimidated. Just contact the Home Efficiency Genie. Since 2015, the Genie has been Palo Alto utility customers' trusted advisor. If you want to take the first step to electrifying your home, the Genie is here to help. They offer free, over-the-phone electrification and efficiency advice to all Palo Alto customers. For a nominal fee, they can provide a comprehensive service called a Home Electrification Readiness Assessment. And that will evaluate your panel capacity, your existing appliances, and how to plan for more electric appliances. They even can provide a list of electricians who are familiar with panel upgrade projects in Palo Alto. The Genie also offers independent advice on upgrade projects, including upgrading your insulation and home air sealing, changing your furnace for a heat pump system, or planning for a heat pump water heater. The Genie maintains a list of qualified vetted contractors who specialize in electrification and home performance. The Genie advisor will not only help you find the contractor, but they can also provide guidance and independent reviews of any bids you receive from those contractors. And this advising service is provided by the City of Palo Alto Utilities just for you. So your takeaway is start with the Genie. Their web address is efficiencygenie.com. And we'll actually include the Genie web address at the end of the presentation as well. For an incentive for a heat pump water heater, the City of Palo Alto offers these very substantial rebates for replacing your gas tank water heater with an efficient heat pump water heater. It's $1,200 for up to 79 gallons and $1,500 for 80 gallons and larger. These rebate amounts will typically cover the cost of the actual water heater. They generally run about $1,200 to $1,500 for the unit. So you're really just paying for the installation. The Heat Pump Water Heater Program website has a list of plumbers that are familiar with heat pump water heater installations, and they can offer you quotes, but they can also get the job done for you. The website also has a video explaining how heat pump water heaters work, some frequently asked questions, some project checklists, and much more. So that website is cityofpaloalto.org/HPWH. That's for heat pump water heater. I won't read all of these testimonials from local neighbors who are on their journey to electrifying their homes, but you can see from reading them that they're very interested, they're very pleased with doing the right thing for themselves and for the planet. But more importantly, they're solving problems with their own home and saving money. I love the last quote from Javier, who has the 100-year-old home, and they've added a heat pump HVAC system, and it solved a decades-old comfort problem. He says, "Winters downstairs and summers in the attic are no longer to be feared." So we've covered a lot of material and concepts tonight, but I want to provide you with a concise summary, and these are really your key takeaways. All electric homes are cleaner for the planet, plus safer and healthier for you. There are many very efficient electric alternatives to gas, and these electric technologies are mature and well proven. And lastly, make a plan for your electrification journey. And you know the Genie is here to help, so feel free to contact them. If you have additional questions, feel free to contact Christine or me. Our email addresses are listed here. And we sincerely want to thank you for joining this webinar. The web resources listed here are helpful places to start your clean electric home journey. The City of Palo Alto Utilities electrification web pages have links to information on all types of electric appliances and equipment. Within the electrification pages, there are web pages with specific resources and steps just for upgrading your electrical panel. And again, here is the Genie web page. And so I'll read these to you. cityofpaloalto.org/electrification and efficiencygenie.com. And if you have additional questions, please email us at sustainability@cityofpaloalto.org. And we'll now address questions that you have. So please feel free to add yours to the Q&A box. We'll try to answer all the questions, time permitting. We also have a survey link that we'll drop into the chat box. And we would greatly appreciate your input as we prepare for future offerings and programs.
Great, thank you, Scott and Christine. My name is Karen North. I'm the Watershed Protection Manager with the city. I have the fun job of reading through all the questions and getting the right person to do the Q&A. I just wanted to thank everybody for watching this webinar. I know it's a presidential debate, and we do really appreciate your time of spending it with us rather than watching the presidential debate. We do have a live question, and I'm going to ask Lena Perkins to put on her camera. What is the split for gas, as in the endpoint usage versus distribution leakage, to make up the 32% slide, number 6? And also, I just want to remind everybody, if you can put your Q&A, because there's a lot of chatter for us to try and track, there's a Q&A portion rather than in the chat box. So we're trying to monitor for the Q&A, and it's also for us to record them so we can make sure we have them for future. So if you sent a question to us in the chat, please copy it and put in the Q&A. All right, Lena, do you have that question, or do you need me to rephrase that?
No, I have that question. And I just want to reiterate that this is just considering the leakage in our natural gas distribution system in the utility side and within the city limits. And so it's about 5% of the total natural gas emissions is from leakage. And so of that 32%, it's about 1.5%. Is that sufficient?
Yes, great, thank you. All right, Christine, we're looking at yours, if you want to unshare your screen, because we're looking at your screen right now.
Oh.
Do you want to just unshare your screen for right now while we're doing the Q&A? There you go.
Yes.
Okay. There you go. That works best too. All right. So for Christine or Scott, since a heat pump requires a water tank and I already have a gas tankless system, then I would be adding the water tank, correct? They still like this idea though. So can you walk us through that?
Sure. So if you have a tankless system, you do not have a tank. And I think that's what the question is. So this would be a tank system. So it would be similar to your traditional gas tank. They look similar, their size similar. So you would need something in that same space requirement that you'd need for a traditional tank. And if that's not helpful, I can answer in greater detail.
Great, thank you. The next question is, how do we answer questions for people who are really concerned about electric power shutoffs? They're worried about power being shut off with all the wildfires. What happens if their electricity is shut down? What is our response to our residents for that? Christine or Scott, who wants to take that?
I'll take a stab at this. So I think the first most important thing is the utilities department. Our number one goal is to provide safe and reliable services. So that is our top priority. So minimizing or not having power shut off is always a priority. And for customers who are worried about shutoffs and the food or they may not have power to use their appliances, there are alternatives. There are battery backup systems, and depending on, they are costly. So depending on the type of backup they would like, there are systems that are under $2,000 that are sufficient to power just a few appliances, such as your phone, your desktop, and maybe your refrigerator. If you want to look at whole house backup, those will be definitely a lot more expensive. We don't necessarily encourage people using diesel generators because there are some risk involved with using diesel generators. And apparently, in the recent events with Hurricane Laura in Louisiana, about half the people were, the casualties from that hurricane were from the improper use of backup diesel generators.
I think Jonathan Abenschein wanted to also add a few things if Jonathan wants to have his face pop up. There you go. And you're on mute, Jonathan. If you want to unmute yourself, there you go.
Sure. So the one thing I'll just add as well is that this has been a very difficult summer when it comes to outages throughout California. Some residents in Palo Alto experienced some rotating outages, which were the first that we had since, I think, the early 2000s. Some may remember from 2009 when there was an air accident that hit the transmission line coming into Palo Alto, and then throughout California there have been public safety power shutoffs, and all of that points to a real need for us to be able to focus on resilience. We do have some solar and storage educational programs and resources for you, including our Sun Work, our Sun Shares group buy program that's launching very soon. But I will also say that many of these reliability incidents that we've been experiencing over the summer, there is a lot of work going on both within Palo Alto and across the state to relieve the pressures associated with some of these issues. And so while it has been a very difficult summer, we do not expect public safety power shutoffs to be a long-term issue. California grid operator is working to eliminate the possibility of future rolling outages, and we are actively in the process of working on a second transmission line for the city of Palo Alto.
And I'd like to actually add one additional comment, thank you, Jonathan, is that using natural gas appliances when there's a power shutoff is really actually not safe as well, because typically if you have a gas stove, you should not use that unless you have a fan that's removing those combustion gases from your home. Otherwise, those are staying in your home. And there's many appliances that really will not function safely, and it's really unsafe to use most gas appliances when the power's off. So you're not really getting any resilience, safe resilience by relying on your gas system.
Great, thank you very much. All right, this is for Christine or Scott. So in regards for retrofits, are there heating systems that can be less expensive to add and reduce the use of gas for heating?
The mini split systems can definitely be used to supplement your current gas furnace. And the nice thing about mini splits is because you can mount multiple indoor units, so you can just add them, say, to your room. You have better zone control. And if you don't need your whole house heated for your using your gas system, I would definitely highly recommend looking into the mini split systems.
Anything else to add, Scott? That was good.
No, I think that's great. And okay. Christine's point is obviously that these can be designed for specific applications, and a lot of times people will just add the mini split to a master bedroom so that they can have additional cooling. It's the advantage of the air conditioning, and so it makes sense. And like I said, they can be adapted for just a single room or a single section of the home.
Great. Okay, the next question is, in Europe, they run the induction cooktops at 360 volts. At what voltage can we run them in Palo Alto? Scott or Christine?
Yeah, so induction cooktops, if you're talking about multiple burners, they're typically running at 240 volts. You do need a 240 volt circuit to run, the full range induction cooktops. But the single burner version that I was mentioning, those can run on your just any outlet, 120 volt outlet. Those would work just fine.
Great. Okay, so this one, Lisa Benatar, you're going to answer this one. So if you want to show your beautiful face. There you go, Lisa. Does Palo Alto have a perspective on solar batteries? For the example, the Powerwall.
I would just say our perspective is that right now we have a little over 20 battery storage systems installed in residential homes in Palo Alto, and they are all Powerwalls. Typically people who want full home battery backup will install 2 Powerwalls because each one covers about 13.5 kilowatt hours, and a typical home uses about 20 kilowatt hours per day. So I'll just say that Powerwalls are what we happen to have installed here in Palo Alto. And we do have our, as Jonathan mentioned, actually our SunShares Solar Group Buy program is underway currently. And I believe Powerwalls or battery storage discounts are available through that program. And you can email SunShares at cityofpaloalto.org, and I'll put that in the chat or the Q&A if folks want to email us for more information.
You have to, just so you know, you need to put that in the chat. Otherwise they can't see the web email in the Q&A.
Great. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you very much. All right. This is the fun thing about trying to monitor. Okay, Lena, you're going to answer a question. Can you actually read through the question too? Because I'm trying to track it through all the different things that are going on.
Sure. Yeah, so the question is, when you express greenhouse gas contributions, do you correct for their potency difference? I think this is referring to the global warming potential, difference when you're calculating an equivalent CO2. And yes, we do. We correct for their different global warming potential on a 100-year time frame is what the SCAP uses. So their contributions over 100 years, and that's where leaked methane or other, nitrous oxide, which is a very potent greenhouse gas, really punch above their weight.
Thank you, Lena, for helping me with that one, and thank you for your answer. All right, so this is for Christine or Scott. Is it permitted to install heat pumps, AC units in your side yard that are less than 9 feet away between the exterior wall and the property line? I don't know if you guys know that question. So heat pumps or AC units in the side yard that are less than 9 feet between the exterior wall and the property line.
That would be something for the development department to answer.
Yvonne, would you be able to answer this question?
If Yvonne's here, yeah, she can maybe answer.
There's
Okay.
Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne.
All right. So it's kind of a planning question. It's really a zoning question. So the question is are we installing it in the main house, or are we installing it on an ADU? So the answer kind of varies. So planning does allow you to install a heat pump water heater on the exterior side of a building as long as it's not within the setbacks, provided that you meet the noise ordinance. So there's a certain decibel level that you cannot exceed when you install it on the exterior. And so some ways to mitigate that is by installing it in a closet, an exterior closet. And once again, that exterior closet cannot be within the setback that's deemed for your zoned areas. So the side yard setback varies depending on where you're located within the city. So it's sort of a function of where you're located. I think Hiromi had a similar situation with her heat pump water heater, where she also had to install it in a closet on the exterior because of the noise ordinance.
Okay, thank you so much, Yvonne.
Can I actually ask?
Yeah.
I want to throw out an additional comment that the systems now are very quiet. So this is not typical like what you used to have with an air conditioner. These systems can be in the less than 50 decibel range. So they are much quieter than older systems. So
I also want to say that if you're going to put it in an exterior closet, like many homes do have their gas tank water heaters in a closet outside, for a heat pump, you have to have ventilation, because like Christine said earlier, it needs to intake the warm air from the inside to compress it into heating the water.
Great. By the way, that was Hiromi. We didn't see your beautiful face. All right. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Hiromi. Okay. So this one, the next one's going to be Jonathan, if you want to show your face. It's beautiful as well, by the way. Is the city utility interested in investigating local energy storage so we can have power during the power outages because of PG&E cutoffs?
So I think the answer to that is, well, yes, we're interested both in energy storage and backup generation. Space and cost are always the primary issues. One of the things we're focusing on right now is in supporting people who are interested in putting in their own storage and their own backup generation. That's both in providing resources to customers, and we've talked a little bit about that, but also reaching out to some of our commercial customers and looking at partnerships on energy storage and backup generation. And the one thing I'll say is that I think that's a general, that's a general statement I'd say about resiliency and reliability generally. The question specifically was about PG&E cutoffs, and I believe that refers to their power safety shutoff program. And I'll just say that that program primarily affects less urban areas of the state. It's places where high winds can affect transmission lines or distribution lines that could swing into trees and start fires. There really haven't been a lot of public safety power shutoffs in dense urban suburban areas like the Bay Area, except in the foothills that surround the Bay Area. And so we think it's far less likely that Palo Alto proper would be affected by one of these cutoffs, although there is always a possibility of having to shut power to some of our residents who do live in the foothills. And again, we are trying to provide as much support as we can for energy storage for all types of customers who might face outages. The last thing I'll say is that the power safety shutoff program is intended to be a temporary measure, and in the coming years, PG&E is expected, is being mandated to make various improvements to their system that will remove the need to have those sorts of shutoffs in the long term. I'm happy to take more questions about that offline.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. So we have another question. Keep them coming in right now. This is our last live question that we have. So how much does it cost a resident for a Genie audit?
So that's a great question. The Genie audit is actually suspended at the moment because we're not allowed to enter people's homes just for safety during COVID. The cost of we're about to launch what's called a virtual assessment, which will actually be done through a telephone, basically through your cell phone, and a professional energy advisor will sort of be walking you through your home. The cost of that will be $49, and that'll actually include the Home Electrification Readiness assessment. So if anyone is interested in that, contact the Efficiency Genie program, get your name onto the list. As soon as that program launches, we're anticipating it to be launching in November, which is just around the corner. So, happy to, help you with your efficiency, whether it's an actual physical assessment. Like I said, those won't be returning until COVID ends.
Great. Well, that's the last live question, but we're going to keep the question Q&A open until 7. So we will just sit here quietly and wait and see if there's any other questions that people pop up. We really want to thank everybody for attending, and I know that there was competing things, fun things that we could be seeing right now, and I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of snippets in the news afterwards on the presidential debate. So if you guys have any questions, again, our team is here to answer. What I would like to do is actually, if the folks that are here from utilities can put their face, see their faces, since they're all behind the scenes helping answer questions. So we've got Lena Perkins, I know we've got Jonathan, I know we've got Lisa, We've got Hiromi. She's the one that was talking without her beautiful face showing. So this is your utilities team. There's actually many more as well. But these are some of the key ones that are here helping us out on the webinar. And Christine Long, you want to put your face up too? So she's our sustainability manager. So she's helping shepherd us all through all of these webinars. And we do hope that you guys enjoy them and share them not wildly, but share them widely. It's been a long day. But please do, they're on YouTube. We're gonna be recording them. They'll be on the website. You can share them with others. We'll continue this series. We would love, Christine, you wanna give them the heads up on the rest of the series that's coming up? You're on mute.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, this was the third webinar in our 2020 Sustainable Lighting Climate Action Plan webinar series. The next one coming up is on November 18th at 7 p.m., Getting to 80 by 30, Your Transportation Vision for Palo Alto. Hiromi Kelsey will be one of the co-presenters for that one. And then December 8th at 6:30 will be the importance of the natural environment in meeting our sustainability goals. And then the ones that we don't have scheduled yet, we're going to do another sea level rise update. We're also working on a virtual forum to give you all the results of the impact analysis that our consultant AECOM is working on. And then we'll close with a final 2020 SCAP webinar to wrap things up.
So we'll just sit here patiently and see if there's any other questions that pop up. We do really appreciate it. We're trying to reach out to the community. So maybe there's a group of community members that weren't able to attend that you could really encourage them to watch this. Maybe there's a bunch of high school kids that you want to require them or volunteer them to watch this so that they expand their horizons. We do need to be looking at it. Oh, look, we've got another question from Allison Cormack, and I'm just going to ask and see who wants to answer. What is the biggest barrier to people switching to electric homes? Who wants to take that one? Someone just raised their hand. Jonathan, Christine?
I can take a stab at it. I think there are multiple barriers. From the customer perspective, I think cost is an issue. I think most people are not really crazy about the idea of spending $3,000 or more to upgrade their panel. So even before they actually can switch out the appliances, if the panel is not sufficient to meet the amperage for all these additional appliances, they need to start off with upgrading the panels. Like right up front, that's $3,000. Although for any homes that already have a level 2 EV chargers or a solar system, that shouldn't be a problem because they probably already have upgraded the panel. Another challenge is kind of the contractors. Like it's really not obvious for people to know which contractor would be or experience in installing heat pump equipment like heat pump water heaters or heat pump HVAC systems. So sometimes even finding a contractor could be challenging, and we're actually helping customers in our heat pump water heater website. There's a list of contractors who are experienced with installing water heaters. And I do also want to put in a plug for this website that would be going live in the next week or so. It's called The Switch-A-Thon. It's a statewide collaborative website that has a lot of resources about converting from a mixed fuel home to an all-electric home, and it also has contractor lookup based on locations, based on your home location. You should be able to find contractors to get quotes from. Yeah, I'll stop there.
So I love Councilmember Cormack because she's just going to keep on peppering us with questions until we're done. So another question is how long does it take for residents to go all electric? If someone started today, how long would it take? Who wants to take that one?
I think I can start with that one. Maybe Christine might have some additional input. one of the things that we wanted people to understand from this webinar is that it's a journey, and it may not, a couple of the residents who have done all electric homes have taken time, and we don't want people to feel like this is something you have to do all at once. You can, if you were going to do a major remodel, it might make sense to approach it during that kind of a project. But if you're not making, significant changes to your home, it can take multiple years, but it is a journey, and that's why we sort of described it as that. And many of our residents who have done all electrification projects have done that over many years. And there are strategies to that, and the Genie can definitely help, because one of the things that we've emphasized is we do want people to look at the building envelope and make sure that that's going to perform well with the heat pump system. And like I said, it may be done in phases.
Yeah, and actually, Scott, that was great. I wanted to add that, again, we're not really asking people to go out there and replace their gas appliances. So as their gas appliances reaches the end of life, then they can go out there and start getting contractor quotes. So this is about knowing first how old your equipments are, your current gas appliances are, and then you can start planning for the replacement with electric alternatives as they fail or before they fail. And getting contractor quotes, like, we always recommend getting at least 2 quotes so that you have a comparison.
Okay, we just have another question come in. We're getting towards the end. So in this climate, is it advisable to include a backup gas furnace in addition to the heat pump AC for the coldest days?
So that's not necessary in our climate at all. And even in the coldest climates, even in Canada, they're using heat pumps to heat and cool homes. So even in the most harsh climates, some have to be more sophisticated than the ones, but in the Bay Area, absolutely, and really in most temperate climates, a heat pump doesn't have any problem keeping up.
Great, I'm just going to keep on monitoring it. We've got 5 more minutes left, so if anyone has any other questions or there's any other information we'd like to share for this webinar on Going Electric 101. Oh, how about, okay, here's another question. Will we recommend rooftop solar paired with an electrification project?
I can take that. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say yes, especially, it's funny, people tend to think of, if they want to be, go green, they think I'm going to put solar on my roof, which is great. We're actually having I'll put in a little plug for our SunShares Group Buy webinar. If you like these evening webinars, we're having one next Tuesday, October 27th, not competing with any other major national events that I know of. It's at 6:30, and you can find information about that. We can put a link in the chat for that as well. But it's on our city workshop webpage. But one of the things we're going to emphasize at that workshop is that if you do want to put solar on your roof, definitely think about not just your current electricity needs, but your future electricity needs. And a rule of thumb that I like to use, because I like to be able to remember numbers, is I said earlier about typical home uses 20 kilowatt hours a day. If you have something like a heat pump water heater, for example, uses about 5 kilowatt hours a day typically. And if you think about it, the sun is mostly out from about 10 to 3, that's about 5 hours. You need about 1 kilowatt of extra system, PV system size, for every 5 kilowatt hours you're going to add per day. So anyway, it's a great time to think about going electric, is when you're putting on solar, and vice versa.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I think this will probably be the last question of the night. So what livability problems, if any, have homeowners who've gone all electric had? I think Scott was going to take the first stab, essentially. So livability, or Hiromi, one of you two?
Do you want to take it, Hiromi? She lives in an all-electric house, so she's a better one to comment, probably.
I will say that I was really happy when we finished construction. For us, the project did take longer for a number of reasons. One of the things about livability that I mean, I love our induction cooktop, and anyone that starts cooking on induction tends to love it. And the cleanability is amazing. I mean, we used to have a gas range, a really nice one, but to clean the thing was such a pain. With this, I take a little bit of cleanser and wipe it down, and it's like this shiny black piece of glass, which is amazing. The other thing is, with the air quality being so bad for a month, what I learned is we could change the filter for our heat pump HVAC system, and we were able to put in HEPA filters. So the air is clean through the heat pump system, which is something I didn't know. The other thing is, you know, I'm really looking forward to the day when, you know, we can do things like vehicle to home. There was a resiliency question earlier, but if you have an EV, then, you know, in the future, it's happening already, but there is equipment that's going to be available so that we could get electricity from that EV as well, instead of from something like a power wall. So there's a lot happening in that arena. But yeah, I like living in an all electric home.
Great, thank you. There's, okay, one last question on the last minute. So what are the advantages of mini splits versus a ducted heat pump? And can a mini split heat an entire 2,000 square foot home? Scott, I think.
Sure, I'll take that. Yeah, so a mini split can be adapted to any size home. Sometimes the compressor, you may need more than one if the house gets large enough. So you may have two compressors, but you can have multiple heads, and that's the actual unit. And I don't know if you remember, but in the Christine's slides, but that is attached to the wall that actually does the heat exchange. So you'll have one of those in pretty much every room, or at least any large room. With a ducted system, the advantage of that is if you want to have a traditional system like you have now, if people like that type of heating and cooling, you can use an existing duct style system and literally have the same comfort that you have with a traditional gas furnace. The mini splits, like I said, are just a little bit different in terms of how they're set up, but they can accommodate any size home.
Great. Well, I think
I'll just add also. So the ducted system, the main central ducted heat pump systems, they are maybe just a little bit cheaper than the mini split system to heat the same square footage. They will be a little bit lower cost. However, because of the air leakage, potential air leakage with the ductwork, you may end up paying more in terms of your bill if you have a ducted system, and you do have to spend more time or money maintaining your ductwork in a central ducted system versus a mini split system. So the efficiency of the mini split is typically better than a ducted system, but a ductless system, the mini split will be a little bit more expensive.
Great. Well, I think that was the last question, and we're at 7 on the dot, a little over past 7. So, Christine, you want to finish it up?
Sure. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight for this webinar. We enjoyed all your questions. We are glad that you picked us over the other things going on tonight. And we hope that you'll join us for our next webinar in November. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you again.